Welcome to the Throwdown, where each week we announce a workout and invite all of you to compete with the Training Think Tank community.
We'll help you with pacing, strategy, and warm-up. Then after the episode, Max will give you some tips for long-term development.
All right, guys, before we get started, just wanted to let you know that our new online training program, The Design, just launched. If you go to trainingthinktank.com, you can sign up for a free 7-day trial.
All right, this week's Throwdown was written by Max. Max, tell us what the workout is.
Today's Throwdown is 5 rounds for time, 75 double unders, 15 toes to bar, 15 hand release push-ups.
So last Saturday, we actually had an opportunity for our Onsite Athletes to test it. I tested it well. I thought it was pretty brutal. Brandon, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, it was brutal, and you saw 3 bottlenecks depending on the athlete here, right? So some people don't have the skill for the double unders, some people don't have pressing endurance, some people don't have toe to bar endurance, or some people are just really good, like Travis at all those things, so he flew through it. But it was definitely one where everyone flew out the gates and then
guilty.
Yeah, right, and then blew up on the. Usually it was the toes to bar or the handstand put or the hand release push-ups later on in the workout.
Yeah, I felt like beginning this workout, I was like, oh, there's no bottlenecks here, right?
Yeah,
you can just fly through the toes to bar push-ups and the double unders, and by round 3, I was like, oh,
exactly.
This was awful.
Yeah, let's see what some of our on-site athletes said about this workout.
Break up the push-ups early. 5s is a good plan.
Advice to the people: break your push-ups up early on. If toes to bar aren't an issue, hang on to the toes to bar. 8-7, maybe the first few sets on the push-ups, and then 5s. Just be smart with how you break them up, and then if you're efficient at double unders, you can make up a lot.
Push-ups aren't that hard, but for the dubs, make sure that you know that you can hit the dubs unbroken. Like I said, I didn't really notice the push-ups. My pecs kind of just do their own thing, and they got it under control, but dubs really sucked, so.
Probably for most people, break up the hand release push-ups from the beginning. Don't run yourself into a wall early because each movement affects the other one.
Be prepared for your arms to hurt really bad and your grip to not be there. Toe to bars get a little grippy. I guess it was more grippy than I thought it would be.
Keep your hips up during the push-ups so you'll get no ripped.
Break up your toe to bar and push-ups from the start. For females, if you're push-up limited, just go bigger at the beginning because they're gonna fall apart anyways, and then deal with it. It's probably not the best advice, but.
Biohack it. Biohack the workout.
All right, if you can't biohack it, let's break down this workout. So if you guys want to watch a demo of this workout before you test it, we have one up on our YouTube page with Travis Mayer and Chandler Smith. They're obviously some of the best guys in the world, but it's a good idea to watch, and you can kind of build your pacing structure off of them. For the standards of this workout, really straightforward. You guys have done all these movements before. Toes to bar. Make sure that your feet are behind the bar on the start of the rep, and then both toes must touch the bar at the top. For the hand release push-ups, make sure you follow these standards. When you go to the ground and you release your hands, you can't be there longer than 1 second, so no resting on the ground, and then your feet must be inside your hands. So one of the tendencies obviously is for our feet to widen out past our hands to create some balance. Your feet must stay inside, and then make sure that you stay in a straight line. So shoulders and hips must rise at the same time. Kyle's gonna give us some setup tips on the floor, so we'll go out to him.
All right, Brandon, you forgot one important standard, and that's that your feet cannot lift off the ground on the hand release push-up. I'm gonna do a couple demos of these because we saw a lot of people falling prey to this. Essentially what happened, they'd go down, hands would release, and then they'd press up. To show you a couple at speed, essentially they're snaking the push-up. Most people weren't even aware that they were doing it. All right, to get into some of the scaling options here. First, we're gonna talk about the double unders. The easiest scale, if you don't have double unders and you're not proficient with your single unders, the easiest way to scale that is going to be with a vertical jump touch. Simply jumping up and touching an object above your head. For the double unders, if you have some double unders, but your capacity is not really great, then what we can do is a single double scale. So something like 2 singles and a double. Or if you're even less proficient, you could spread that out to like single, single, double, or even 3 or 4 singles between them. If you do that, you're going to need to reduce the reps of double unders, because if you're trying to do 75 double unders, and you're only doing one double under every third rep, you're gonna end up with a lot of bounding over the course of 5 rounds. So scale that down. Next, we have some scales for the toes to bar. I think there's 2 major options. The first is a half toes to bar. Still including the kip, you're just gonna stop your toes just above waist level. This is a good scale because it helps to teach toes to bar while you're doing it. Plus, it's actually a pretty tough scale, especially if you really squeeze at the top. The other option is gonna be a knees to chest or just a hanging knee raise. You can either do this strict. If you're someone who has shoulder issues, a strict hanging knee raise would be a good option. If not, getting some kipping in. Again, this flows really well into a full toes to bar. So again, something that's gonna allow you to develop toes to bar over time. For the push-ups, we've got 2 scaling options as well. The first being no hand release, so you just rip off push-ups the way you normally would. Make sure that you keep hips, shoulders, knees, everything in line as you go. The other option would be a hand release push-up from the knees. Now it would look like this. Those are your basic scaling options for the workout. Obviously, you can adjust rep counts if needed based on your capacity. Other than that, I think that's it for scaling. We'll take it back to Brandon for some strategy.
So one of the reasons we have so many standards for the push-ups is the reality, you're probably gonna blow up in this workout, so make sure that you hold the standards as best you possibly can.
Push-ups to me were the hardest part of the workout, bar none. I think I was insane thinking that I was gonna be able to just rip through 15 every set. 15 doesn't seem like a giant number of push-ups. By the last round, it was a gigantic number of push-ups.
Right, I mean, you're getting back to them so fast and everything is creating tension in your upper body. So I think one of the fastest ways for athletes to develop quickly is self-awareness. And I don't mean like this weird, like esoteric self-awareness that all these self-help guys are telling you to do now. I'm talking about like the most practical self-awareness in workouts. So what I mean is knowing what your limitations are, knowing what your strengths are, and then pacing the workouts off of those. So this is one of the reasons we're doing this. You get it on a Thursday, and then you can look into the Saturday of how I'm going to pace this workout based on your strengths and weaknesses. So we obviously, like we said earlier, have 3 bottlenecks in this workout for some people. Some people are gonna be able to fly through this, but double unders can be a bottleneck.
If people watch the video of Travis and Chandler, they'll see there probably wasn't much of a bottleneck for people at the top level of the sport.
Right, but for most of us, double unders can be an issue if you have coordination or skill issues with the double unders, or if you just have really sloppy mechanics.
Or they can blow up your shoulders, which they did to me.
Right, or bad bounding mechanics, which is one of my issues with an old ankle injury. Toes to bar, obviously, if you don't have good postural core endurance, then obviously you're gonna blow up there, or maybe even your grip for some people that have a grip limitation, or with what we see most often, on this workout at least, is the pressing endurance issue, because we do work on a lot of like vertical pressing work, but we don't work on a ton of horizontal pressing work, at least most athletes in the sport aren't, or if it is, it's like, I'm just doing 5x5 bench press and I think that's enough, which, you know, in this workout's not.
You know, you mentioned self-awareness. I think the lack of training of horizontal pressing, the lack of push-up training that exists, you know, in most people's training designs may be one of the factors that leads to a lack of self-awareness here. They just don't know what their capacity is like in a movement like that.
Absolutely. So this one will expose...
I fell victim to that.
Yeah, this one will expose you to that, and then Max is going to give some great demonstrations on some progressions that you can use in at the end of this video. So I think that's something that if you blew up on the pressing, or the hand release push-ups blew you up in later rounds, then take a look at that and see how you can change that in your training. Or if you have a training think tank coach, ask them about it. Say, hey, look, in the 3rd round, I was already gone in the push-ups. How can we get these better? And that's something that we can do. So as far as pacing goes, the way that I look at this, and again, it's athlete dependent, but I try to break each piece up in a workout like this where we know that all of them can be bottlenecks. So with the double unders, if someone's really efficient at them, then obviously we can go 75 unbroken. If we know that they have a bounding limitation, or they create too much tension in their shoulders or in their arms for this, so that may blow up their grip or the push-ups, then I say, hey, let's make sure that we break these with a certain number or certain number of seconds of rest in between the double unders. So it may look like 40 double unders, 5-second rest, 35 double unders, or 50, 25, or 25, 25, 25, depending on the athlete.
What about if someone's likely going to trip? Because I went into it with a strategy like that, but I ended up tripping on the first round at like 35, and then I kept going, was able to finish out the 75. The next round I tripped at like 47 or something like that. How would you adjust the strategy for someone who's going to trip within that.
This is one of the great things about training versus competing. And I am more and more convinced that in this sport, it's like 60% building up your training and being prepared, and then 40% like learning how to compete.
Yeah.
So there are some unknowns, but you have to think about that before you go into the workout. If your goal is 40, 35, and you trip at 37, then you shouldn't just go to 40, right?
Adjust on the fly.
Adjust on the fly,
Yeah.
and then finish the work. Or if you adjust on the fly and you're like, man, I'm tired at 60, then take a break there. There's no point in blowing up, especially earlier on when you know that toes to bar and hand release push-ups can be an issue here.
Blowing up on the easiest movement in the workout, which is going to set up shoulder fatigue on the toes to bar. That toes to bar fatigue played into the hand release push-ups, and the whole thing just became a disaster.
For sure. So part of the concept of being self-aware is being able to guesstimate where your time should be in this workout. And I'll set all this up for you. Let's say that I look at this workout and I say, I want to average 2 minutes around, which is actually a pretty fast pace here. So don't think that this is like a slow pace and that's what you should do.
This is exactly what I did.
Yeah, exactly.
I said 2 minutes per round. 10 minutes would be a good goal for the workout.
Right. But let's say it was 2 minutes, just for the ease of being able to explain this. I know that I'm going to go 40, 35 of my double unders with a 5-second rest, so that takes me 48 seconds or 50 seconds. And then the rest of my time has to be split up between my toes to bar and my hand release push-ups. The way that I've tried to coach my athletes to think about their rest times in this is to build in the maximum amount of rest time that you want on each movement and then break up the reps accordingly. So here's what I mean. If you're doing hand release push-ups and you know you can't go 15 unbroken, I say, okay, well, let's make the rest time total 12 seconds for all the hand release push-up reps. What that may look like in the first couple rounds is 5, rest 6 seconds, 5, rest 6 seconds, 5. And now you're at 12 seconds of rest, but you're doing chunks of 5. Let's say you go into the third round and now it's like, I can't hold 5s with 6-second rest. I have to take longer rests. Then it may be doing 5, 3, 2, 3, 2 with shorter breaks in between those.
But still totaling the 12 seconds
Still
rest.
totaling the 12 seconds rest. And I've said this in the old First Thought videos that we did, but I stick to this. There's really no such thing as overpacing, especially not in a workout like this where there's so many things that could go wrong or could blow you up. The reality is that there's just over resting. So 12 seconds is really a fast rest time. Like, people shouldn't do that. It should be more like 20 seconds built in to each of those and longer breaks. But try to keep the same rest times throughout, and even though you may feel good earlier on, that will allow you to be able to take longer breaks and break into more chunks later on in this workout.
You know, one of the things that I think might make sense for this to help people develop better self-awareness would be before the workout, write down what you expect your round times to be. Write down what you expect your breaks to be. And then when you finish the workout, compare that to what reality was. Because that gives you an opportunity to see, okay, my perception of my capacity and my actual capacity may not or may be in the same place. And if they're not, then that shows a lack of self-awareness and allows you to adjust those things moving forward. If you don't write it down, you know, you're not really actually building the concept of self-awareness as you go.
Yeah, I've become a huge stats guy, especially with tester workouts like this. So like you're saying, I would highly recommend everyone that tests this workout to go back and watch like Travis and Chandler, or watch other people that do it with you, and then look at your own split times and get an idea of where you fall off. And then get an idea of where other people are gaining time on you in the workout, and then that's a good way to identify your limitations on this workout. Now, CrossFit's complicated. There's a lot of variance, so it may not just be as simple as my pressing endurance is bad. But if you know that you're losing 20 seconds a round because your push-ups are poor, that's a good indicator that you probably should work on it. Or I tripped 5 times every round of my double unders. That's a good indicator that that's a limitation.
Should probably work on double unders then.
Right. Or it may just be the combo. It may be that your shoulders are blowing up from the push-ups and it's causing those issues.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So, but those are things that you can start looking at and then build out a stat sheet or whatever you like to do for your CrossFit journal and say, hey, I did this workout and it was 2 minutes around, 2 minutes around, 3 minutes around, 3:05, 3:10 to finish. Well, that's a huge drop off. Why did that happen to me? And then compare it to other scores that you see. That's a quick way to start learning about these things and then be a better, you'll be a better competitor that way, as opposed to just being good at training in the gym.
Well, this is how you learn from a workout. What are the things that you can do on game day to actually improve performance here?
Absolutely. I think that the best thing that we can do is have a quality warm-up. So what Kyle will do is show us a good warm-up. He's going to walk over the board and break this down for you. But the reality is, especially when it comes to something like push-ups, which is so local, a good warm-up definitely helps.
All right, so just to walk you guys through this warm-up real quick, conceptually, I've got a general warm-up planned out here. Personally, I'm thinking the ski erg is probably the most applicable here because the upper body touches on similar movement patterns and similar musculature to the push-ups and the toes to bar.
Kyle, if someone doesn't have a ski erg, what would you recommend?
I'd put them on the rower, I think, would probably be
Cool.
my next option, especially since you get some good flexion extension in there, similar to a toes to bar. So we'd start 12 cal ski. You could adjust that for females, maybe 12-10. 20 single unders, 12 walking toe touch. One of the basic principles of an effective warm-up is making sure that you actually address the antagonist muscles. So I'm thinking like, okay, we're doing toes to bar. We're really gonna be demanding a lot out of the trunk musculature and global flexion. So let's open up the opposite muscle. That way trunk flexion's a little bit easier. And then finish with some scat push-ups. These are just good for general shoulder health and really good for warming up push-ups. Then I would take like 5 minutes to warm up your double unders. Actually, you're starting with single unders and go into some double unders, work on cycling them a little bit faster. 5 minutes to warm up toes to bar, maybe go through a progression of arch hollow swings, and then work on coordinating your breathing with your toes to bar. When you're open, get a big inhale. When you're closed and your toes are up on the bar, get a big exhale. That'll help you breathe in the middle of this workout, and I can tell you from having done this workout myself that breathing becomes a factor in like round 3 and 4. And then spend about 5 minutes to warm up your push-ups, and make sure you play with that hand release standard because when you get tired, it's easy to snake the reps and just kind of short the reps. Then go into 2 to 3 sets of very specific prep, some intervals of the workout, maybe 2 minutes on the assault bike at an easy pace or 2 minutes on the rower, then 25 to 30 double unders depending on your capacity, 5 to 7 toes to bar, 5 to 7 push-ups. You can go through 2 to 3 sets of that. After you're done, rest and go. Back to you, Brandon.
So starting next week, we'll have an Insta Spotlight. If you hashtag TTT TD1, you'll be featured on the episode next week.
That is the clunkiest hashtag, guys, but I'm sorry. It's the only thing I could find that wasn't being used by
Easiest way to remember it, it's 4 T's, a D, and the number of the week. This week is 4 T's, a D, 1.
And then next week will be
4 T's, a D, and a 2.
You want to go all the way to 10?
No.
Okay. Hey, listen, invite a friend, leave a comment below of your score. You'll be able to also look at all the Onsite athletes because their scores will be in the comments below when you watch this
Except
video.
for mine, I'm not going to post mine.
Yeah, you don't want anybody to beat
Nerd.
you. He lost to Max.
I did lose to Max. This is true.
All right, stick around. Max is going to give you guys some long-term development tips.
In this workout, one of the themes that I saw was that a lot of people get bottlenecked by the hand release push-ups. So in our long-term development segment this week, I'm going to try to give you some ways to organize some warm-ups and cool-downs into your week to improve your pressing so that if something like this does come up in the future, you have some sort of progression built into your training so you feel a little bit more confident. A principle that I like to apply if you get exposed in some sort of a qualifier style workout is find themes over specific movements. So a mistake I've seen a lot of people do in the past is something like deadlift comes out in a workout, they get exposed, they're way farther back on the leaderboard, and then they do a ton of specific deadlift workouts to get better at just deadlifting. And then the following year, it could be touch and go power cleans with dumbbells, power snatches, power cleans, or a bunch of stuff that involves repetitive pulling, but because they put all of their time into that one movement of just deadlifting, they're not actually getting better at pulling endurance. So the theme that we're working on here, if you get exposed on hand release push-ups, is pressing. You'll obviously have to do hand release push-ups to get better at hand release push-ups, but over the broad spectrum of tests that you might get, hand release push-ups just might be in 1 out of every 50. So you want to make sure that the themes you're getting better at cover as many of your bases as possible. The target for the warm-ups and finishers that I'm gonna give you, the 3 days that I'm gonna give you, are pressing strength, pressing endurance, and pressing variability. Again, so that it has as much broad application as possible to as many tests as possible. And then a reminder, or 3 specific reminders. The way that I wrote these are that you can rest as needed between your sets. Because these are warm-ups or finishers, you are gonna have your main training body that's gonna take all of your focus, it's gonna be the most fatiguing. So when you're going through your finishers or your warm-ups, you don't want to get overly fatigued that it impacts the main structure of your training. So make sure that you have a little bit less overall intensity, urgency between your sets as you're going. Second reminder, don't take it to your limit. So I set some reps and set targets for people. These might be a little bit too on the low end for people that have really good capacity, or they might be on the high end for people that are really, really poor at pressing. So make sure that you adjust these reps and sets to fit your needs, and don't go to true failure, leaving yourself so sore that you can't do it. You should be able to do these 3 days throughout the course of the week and do it repetitively week after week after week to build consistency. If one session is making you so sore, it's probably not the right way to do it. Lastly, focus on quality positions, making sure that it'll transfer into a competition so that you're meeting the movement standards and that you're not just accumulating garbage volume that's not actually going to transfer into you moving like an athlete. So the 3 days. First day is focus on horizontal press. Day 2 is focus on core bracing endurance. Day 3 on vertical pressing. So that way you're getting pressing in all of the patterns of motion that you can press, and you're getting some core stability in case your midline was the thing that broke down when you started to go under fatigue in that workout from the volume of jumping and toes to bar paired with the pushing. Day 1, 3 sets of 10 strict push-ups, 3 sets of 10 ring push-ups, 3 sets of 5 clap push-ups, 3 sets of 10 feet elevated push-ups, and 3 sets of 10 ring dips. So basically you're doing a set, resting, doing a set, resting, doing a set, resting, and moving from one movement to the next. That's day 1. Day 2, elbow plank march. So you're in an elbow plank, push up into a plank, back down into an elbow plank. 3 sets of 20 reps. Each time you lift up your arm, that'll be 1 rep. So it'll be 1, 2, back down. 3, 4, and it's going to basically be 10 reps where you're going from an elbow plank into a plank, or 20 total marches going up to your hands. B would be a plank hold, alternating single leg lifts. So you're in a plank and then you're lifting up one of your legs to remove the base of support and add some instability that your upper body and single leg have to support you, putting a little bit more stress on your midline to stay stable in that plank position. C, single arm ring plank. So basically getting into a plank position with one hand on a ring. Again, you're moving one of your bases of support from your plank and you're adding the instability from the ring, putting a little bit more stabilization challenge on the upper body and more stabilization on the core. And then D1 and D2, you're gonna go back and forth between them. So you're gonna hold a handstand, 3 sets of 1 minute. This would probably be performed against a wall. This 1 minute, if it's too long, you can chop it up and just do like 3 quick 20-second segments, or you can just cut the overall time. You do the handstand hold and then go into a hollow body hold, 3 sets of 1 minute, back and forth between the 2. So this is day 2, core bracing endurance focus. Day 3, 3 sets of 10 strict press, that'd be with a barbell, 3 sets of 10 strict handstand push-ups, 3 sets of 10 seated dumbbell Z press. So you're sitting down, legs are out in front of you, holding the dumbbells here, pressing straight up. And then lastly, dumbbell strict press. So that's standing dumbbell strict press. So you can see if you can incorporate these 3 days into your warm-ups or your cool downs or act as finishers, you're gonna accumulate a ton of total reps and contraction volumes throughout the course of the week in all of the variations of pressing endurance. Then if something like hand release push-ups come out, it's not a movement that you haven't trained over the course of a ton of weeks or a ton of months, and you're just getting that one movement having not touched it in a long time. This should allow you a little bit more repetitive exposure, and it should give you a model for saying, okay, if I need to get better at a specific movement, how can I organize it into my warm-ups, my cool downs, things that I can do at home and not impact the main body of my training or my main priorities that get tested on a regular basis in the sport. Hopefully this helps. Good luck. See you next week.